so that you can be you are able to, if you have any questions, you can send me an email about advanced file IO. But our major things actually in this time is inheritance and GUI. Exception is just to give you an example how the Java implement the inheritance. And GUI stuff is actually a totally, I think is combine everything together. You need Java 1 skills as well as Java 2 skills. And GUI stuff is event-driven programming. So we will introduce event-driven programming, and you are not required to remember all that code, whether it's the keywords in that. Actually, I will introduce another programming tool associated with NetBeans, so that you can easily just use the functions provided by the NetBeans, and you can focus on event-driven programming. So, oh, another thing is I have already finished grading your midterm. So just let me know that if you want to pick up your midterm paper or you want to just scan and send it to you. So next class, maybe I can discuss a little next week. So maybe next Thursday, I will discuss the midterm paper. So for the inheritance, now let us start. So we have certain kind of scenario for the inheritance. Is we have, for example, we have our university. We have the organization, university organization. And within the university organization, it has certain kind of methods associated. For example, for the university organization, we have the name for the university name. And we have, for example, university size, something like that. And then we have the methods say that get university name. And we have another method called get university size. And also for the organization, we may have some kind of, oh, maybe this is not a good example. So maybe we use this example. So for example, we have in the math, we have already learned the rectangle. So for the rectangle, you may have the variable is one is length, one is width, and one is called the color, what the color of this rectangle. Okay, so was that one? For the rectangle, we can also create the method to get length. Okay, we can also get width. Also, we can set up to say that get area. This get area function we can do is, okay, it's just use length multiply width, right? And then the next one, we can get color. Okay, so when we do this, and want to create another class called triangle, we want to create another class called square. So in the square class, you can do the things is say, okay, I need edge length, edge, and of course, I have color. And then I can set up the things to say I want to get edge. And I want to get area. And the other things is get color. However, when we see this relationship, actually everyone have already studied in math. We know that the square is a special case of rectangle. So in this, actually, I don't want to create the square class, which is actually, I think it's the special case of the rectangle. Actually, square is a special case of rectangle. So I can think the edge is just length and is length equals to width, right? The square is a rectangle, a special rectangle where the length equals to the width. So Java provide us one thing is called inheritance, means a special case is inherited from the general case. So we can say that square is the special case of a rectangle, where length equals to width. So now rectangle class is the special case, is the base class of the rectangle of the square class. Square class is square class is the special class of the rectangle class. Okay, so now in here, how do we represent it? We can start our NetBeans to see what will happen. Okay, in our NetBeans, we will create a new class. This one is in, I called rectangle example. Okay, within rectangle example, I will create a new file is called rectangle. Okay, in rectangle, we just use our basic example. So we have private double length, private double-wise. I will use a string to represent a color. Okay. And then I need several constructors. Excuse me. So okay, so this is the constructor for rectangle. And then I need to get length, get width, get area, and get color. So get length, get width. Okay, I can get area. Okay, I can do get color. Okay, so this is the rectangle. This is the normal we did. So now we will do through the inheritance. So if we do this guy, we create a new file.
Professor, I think someone's having problems.
Excuse me.
I think there's some people having problems with their screen.
So I stop sharing. Oh, you don't see my screen? So I will share again.
Mine was working, but there's some people that's not working.
Okay. Let me share again. Say NetBeans rectangle examples. So you see the black screen?
I can see it now.
Okay, good. Anyone cannot see, please text me. Okay, that's good. Okay, so we continue. And this is a normal rectangle class. So now I will show how we do the square through the inheritance. So we create a new class called square. Okay, I will slow down a little bit. So square class. So in the square class, the first thing, if you want to see that this one is inherited from the other class, say that this is the subclass of square is a subclass of square rectangle class. So you should put one keyword is called extends. Okay, and then which class is the superclass? The superclass will put after the extends. Okay, so it will show that you should have, since you are extends the rectangle class, so you should have certain kind of constructors. So don't worry, we will do step by step. Okay, the first thing, in the declaration of a class, if you are the subclass of the other class, the subclass will be here, the square in this example, and the superclass will after the keywords extends. So you put the extends there, then you can use, you can put another class as its superclass. Make sure that in this superclass, rectangle, you can only, for the base case, for the subclass, you can only extend one superclass. Okay. You cannot extend more than one. Okay, so here is just one, a rectangle. I extend the rectangle class, and then I will first create my field is I need edge. I need color. Okay. Now the second, since I should say that constructor cannot be inherited. This means if you do this one, the constructor, you should create constructor for each class. Even this one is inherited from the base class. For example, here the square is extended from the rectangle. You cannot say that I inherit square class inherit constructor from the rectangle. The constructor you should create by your own. But the running here, when you create an instance of subclass, the superclass constructor, okay, so when you create an instance of subclass, the superclass constructor will run first. This means when you create an instance of square class, the compiler, the program will first create an instance of rectangle class and then create instance of square class. Okay, it will do. It will call constructor twice. The first constructor, even if you just create an instance of square class, it will first call the constructor in the rectangle class, create the instance of the rectangle class, and then create an instance of the square class. So you will call second. After you call the rectangle class, it will call the square class to create the instance of square class. So that's why when we do the subclass, you will see there is an error to say that, okay, the square class, you only have two pass-in variables, but you look at the rectangle. When you create the rectangle constructor, it requires three pass-in values. So you have length, width, color. But in the square, you only have edge and the color. How do I do these things is two ways. In one way is in the rectangle class, you create a constructor only have these two parameters to satisfy the square requirement. Another way to do this is I will use super to call the particular constructor in the superclass. And this particular superclass I will do is, okay, I will pass in edge, and the color. So because my superclass constructor, my superclass constructor requires three values. One is length, one is width, one is color. So I only have edge and color, but at the very beginning line, the first line of the constructor in the subclass, I can use super to indicate which constructor I want to do. So by doing this, you will have no problem. Of course, I will record and this time I just recorded the edge value. I don't need to record the color value because at the rectangle class, it will already have this guy. Okay, so now let us test this one and to see which one will call first. Okay, I will put several things to say the superclass constructor is called. To see the ordering of the constructor, we will see the subclass constructor is called. Okay, in the example, in the main method, I create one square. A square. I will pass in one. One is its edge. And the other one is its color. Yeah, because one question one students ask is when you receive the edge value, it will assign that value to both the edge spots in the supercore. The correct it is correct because your square is treat is treated like a special case of rectangle. And the edge actually, edge is for the y, so edge is for the length. So you put two edge values there is one for length, one for y for the rectangle. You treat it like this way. And now we run our code and see what happens. Okay, let us see. So the first thing you will see me. So the first thing you will see is the superclass constructor is called. So the rectangle one is called, and then the subclass constructor is called. So you, the second one. So when you do the constructor for the inheritance, you will see that the superclass constructor is first called, you create a rectangle, and then you create a subclass is you create a square. Okay, so now next one. For the inheritance, the normal class, the normal methods, not constructor, the normal class is actually is inherited by the subclass. So when the square, I want to say that, okay, for the square, I want to get the edge value. The one way to do that is, okay, I will create a new get edge. But actually, I do not need to do this because in the rectangle class, I have get length, get width. Actually, when you create the instance for square, this one is already recorded. The edge value, no matter it's at the length or at the width, it's already recorded. And another thing is the color is also recorded. So this all the methods, except the constructor, all the methods will be inherited by the subclass. So in here, your square class not only have its constructor, but it also have the get length method, get width method, get area method, and get color method. Even if you don't implement in the explicitly in the square class, since it's inherited from the rectangle class, all the method except the constructor, all the other methods are inherited from the superclass. So let us see. Even if I don't create any methods associated with square, but I have already have, I can call, say for example, I can call get color method. With no problem, because this one is already inherited from the rectangle class. You don't need to implement again in the subclass. If you can reuse the superclass method, just reuse it. So okay, let us see. This one will say that, okay, the color of the square is red in here. So this one is directly inherited. Okay, So even if I don't have get area, but I can also do the get area in the square. The area of the square is so I can get area and calculate. So in here, the correct answer should be 25 because I have edge length is 5. Since so you will see the area of the square is 25. Okay, so this is the fundamental of the inheritance. Actually, of course, we will do a lot more. But in summary here, you should be make sure. So I stop sharing and I will share the red whiteboard. So this whiteboard, I want to say, okay, use keyword extend to indicate the relationship between superclass and subclass. So usually you will have is public class, your superclass subclass name, extends superclass name. Okay, so you put the subclass name before the extends and superclass name after the extends. Okay, this is one first key point. The second one, constructor method cannot be inherited. So you should create constructors for superclass and subclass separately. Okay, so every class, no matter superclass, subclass cannot inherit the constructor from the superclass. When the instance of the subclass is created, it will first call
It is, look. Wait, teacher's typing. See.
Excuse me? Can you type in the chat room for your question?
No.
Yeah, he's teaching.
Well,
Mommy, you don't know.
oh, can you mute your micro? So when the instance of the subclass is created, it will first call the superclass constructor with the same list of the parameter. So for example, in here, when we create in the square class, it have passing the edge value, it will have double for the edge and a string for the color. So it will call the constructor at the superclass with one double value and one string value. But actually in our implementation in the superclass rectangle class, there's no such constructor. If the superclass does not have the constructor with the same parameter list, you have two ways to do. Option one, so put or create the constructor at the superclass with the same parameter list. This one is not a good option, but sometimes you should have to do that. Except another one, option two I prefer, is in the subclass constructor, use super to call the particular constructor in the superclass. So this time you tell the compiler which particular constructor you want to call in the superclass when you create the instance for the subclass. So option two is preferred. But another thing is this is super, you call the superclass constructor, since the constructor in the superclass will first called, so this super should be put at the first line. So, and put super constructor. Okay. Okay, there's two questions associated, so I will answer. The first question says that is there maximum number of subclass that can be created from superclass? Actually, there's no maximum number of subclass created from superclass. So for one superclass, you can create many subclass of it. So but for the subclass, it can only inherit it from one superclass. Right? So this is the first question. The second question is there ever a time when it's better to use the first option? Yes, it's possible. We will use the first option. Is that if, for example, when you create a subclass has no, the subclass has no constructor. Actually, it means that you have only default constructor, but the superclass may need to create a default constructor. So default constructor is the constructor without any passing parameters. But if your superclass has one constructor with passing parameters, then it will have no default constructor. But when your subclass only have default constructor, then this time, the only way you can do is for option 1. So you can create a constructor with that superclass. Okay. So this is the second key point for the inheritance. The third key concept for the inheritance is all methods in general. Okay, this is in general. In next class, I will say some special case. Here is in general. All methods, I should say all public methods, all methods. In here, you only have public methods. All methods, all public methods in the superclass can be accessed through subclass. Okay, so in inheritance environment, all public methods in the superclass can be accessed through the subclass. What does it mean? It means that if you do not need to implement the methods in the subclass, if you can use the superclass methods. Okay, you don't need to copy the superclass methods to the subclass, but you just directly use that method. Okay, in general. Okay, so this is the inheritance. Now, how do we show the relationship between subclass and superclass? Okay, inside, this is a superclass. So in our example, this is a rectangle. Okay, this is the rectangle class. And I have another one in here. I have is called the square class. In here, I have the rectangle class. Okay, I just erase. Okay, so how do I show the relationship between the superclass and subclass? So I will do this. So I will draw a triangle. Okay, this is the way for us to show the relationship is we have a triangle point to the superclass, and then rectangle is the subclass of the rectangle class. Okay, we use the triangle. Okay, so if we can do another thing is looks like this. So here, if you have multiple classes have inheritance relationship, you can draw the graph. We call it okay. So we call it the inheritance train. So for example, here I have the shape class, and its subclass will have two. One is called rectangle. Maybe we can draw three. So one is rectangle, one is triangle, and one can be circle or oval. Okay, oval. And then within rectangle, you can have even have another subclass is the square. And within oval, I think you can have another subclass is we call the circle. Okay, then we can show their relationship. This three is inherited from the shape class. Or is from shape class. Okay, so you can see that it can shape can have a subclass rectangle, can have a subclass triangle, can have a subclass oval, and then we can have further, we can create a chain of inheritance, like rectangle is the subclass of shape and the square is the subclass of rectangle. So we can further draw. Okay, to show that this one square is the subclass of rectangle. And the circle is the subclass of oval. Okay, so if you have further, you can do further. So this chain can be have a very long chain, and one superclass can have multiple subclasses, and there's no limitation of number of subclasses. Right. So this is the whole picture, UML picture of your classes relationship. So don't forget we have aggregation. The aggregation is we have the diamond to point to. Here we use triangle. So you will have the triangle to point to who is your superclass. Okay, that is the representation of inheritance. And within those inheritance chain, every method in the superclass can be inherited by the subclass. So even you have say that I have one shape color in the shape class, the square class can also inherit it, and to say that the color from the shape class. So, but this inheritance is actually, this inheritance will actually show that, okay, the get color class method in the shape class inherited by the rectangle class, inherited by the square class. So in our normal inheritance, this is just inherited, and you can use it directly. So this is our today's class, and any questions you can type in, and the 10 minutes I will do the question and answer. If you have question, please type in. Okay, one question is what would a subclass of a subclass look like in code? So actually, there's no kind of subclass of a subclass. Actually, if a subclass of another subclass, actually the other subclass is treated like a superclass. So we still have this one as an example. I can share. So in this one, I have rectangle and a square. So suppose I create a shape class. This one, oh, sorry, wrong thing. Okay, I have a shape class. And then I say that the rectangle is the subclass of shape class. Then I just do extends shape class. So this one, here I super it. Means I don't want to have anything. So here you can see that in order to create the chain of inheritance, I only need to know who is my superclass. You don't need to distinguish, okay, this is in the middle is the subclass of another subclass. Actually, you don't need to. This one is just, you just extend the superclass.